I want to first also give recognition to the family of Toveet, her parents, her sister, her brothers, and to recognize the pain that they have endured. In many ways, we feel unnecessarily. On behalf of the community leadership, who is also represented here today by Prince Gabriel and Prince Keskiahu, we felt it was very important to, first of all, give a better understanding of the depth of our relationship to Sahel. Because, first of all, Prince Keskiahu was the first of our community to enter Israel in 1968. But in 1973, he was one of the band members who traveled all over this land performing in bases, Army bases, Navy bases, to perform for the troops, hospitals during the time of the war. Now, they had no Teodot Ziyut, they didn't have any ID cards, they didn't have any status whatsoever, but they were serving this land and serving the military on behalf of this land. He didn't have just as a military band would today, they didn't have uniforms, but they were soldiers. Prince Gabriel is probably from the most famous family among our community. 2 of his sons have represented the state of Israel in Eurovision in different years. And he has had over 15 grandchildren serve in this army and at least 20 grandchildren on their way. So there's a long-term reputation, a long-term history you have in terms of our relationship and service in this country. It's important that you came today and hear our voices, feel our spirits, and understand that we're angry. Because there's a lot of disappointment and pain in what we have had to endure these past 3 years. There's this nagging feeling that things would be different if Toveet wasn't a little black girl from Dimona. And that somehow she's less important than someone else. And something's wrong with that picture. Because whatever the outcome, we realize that proper protocols weren't followed in this case in any way, form, or fashion. Her gun was not checked the night before. There were questions in terms of a list of questions in terms of some of those things that we can touch on. Even who was on the base that night, what happened to the strap that was on her weapon, all the key things that needed to be to make this procedure official were missing. There was no residue on her hands because her hands were washed. There was no strap. There were no cameras. No one was checked. The mobile lab was not called. 2 years they didn't find the door, and no one heard a shot. Again, just key element after key element after key element that was just not present. What's wrong with this picture? And yet, the judge could say unequivocally, oh, that she shot herself. Something's wrong here. When you add to that the insults that have taken place in recent months, one of our sisters being harassed and dishonored and disrespected on a bus. And then in the last week, the hafnaya, the medical referral that one of our young brothers who lives in another part of the country received saying, a 40-year-old vegan nigger, please. Where are we and what is taking place? A disturbing pattern is forming here, and we have a problem with it. Yesterday, one of our young men asked me, he said, Doth, he said, but we model citizens, aren't we? He said, we keep the Torah. We serve the nation. We share our intellect. He said, what's wrong here? And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, you're right. I said, this community has been a national treasure for this city and for this country. We've brought more positive attention, more guests, both famous and non-famous, to this city and to this country as anyone else in this country. And we're proud of that fact because we're part of this land, and we're proud of that fact. But something's wrong here, and it needs to be fixed. It's time to be treated like we're national treasures. It's time to fix these issues, and that's why we're here today. And we want the world to know that, because time out. Fix the problem.
Right.
בסדר, נפתח לשאלות ותשובות. אני אזכיר קודם להציג את עצמכם בשם, למי אתם מייצגים, ואז לשאול את השאלה ונענה בהתאם.
אלמוג עיתון הארץ, בדבריך דיברת על זה שאתם רוצים לערוך מפגש עם מפקד מצה"ל, וזרקת איזה רמז שאמרת שהאם אנחנו צריכים לא להתגייס יותר. אני רוצה, האם זו תחושה שאתם מרגישים מהצעירים היום בכפר שהם עומדים להתגייס ושואלים את עצמם יותר שאלות ושואלים האם אנחנו בכלל זוכים? או אתם כמנהיגי קהילה שוקלים את הצעד הזה?
אנחנו רוצים לדעת שהם בשלום, שאין איום, משהו כזה. We want them to know that they are safe. That's the bottom line. Make sure that there are protocols in place. Make sure that there are procedures in place to ensure their safety. This was a young woman who was serving in her base and was never checked on in 4 hours officially. That standard protocol, if it is, that protocol needs to be changed. And if it isn't, somebody should be paying for that negligence. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Jonah Mandel, AFP French News Agency. I'd like to ask you if you see a connection between Toveet's case and the recent cases of racism you mentioned and the Israeli government's latest moves regarding Africans in Israel, steps to expel them against their will at some times. Is there a connection between the Israeli government's attitude to African people and to your community?
That would be shameful if it is. Speaking to, because again, every immigrant to this country should be treated with respect. Every case should be dealt with accordingly. No, it's not an easy thing to do, but life isn't easy. So that everyone should be treated with respect and make decisions accordingly, not simply wipe with a broad brush and deal with the situation.
But could it be that the government's attitude is kind of infiltrating into society and enabling more discrimination against your community?
That's quite possible, but also, it's something global you see right now. We see immigration issues and racial issues bubbling to the top and dividing societies across this globe. And it's a very dangerous and explosive situation. Israel, we're supposed to be examples. We should be an example setting the pace for showing the world, being a light into the world in terms of how to deal with things humanitarianly, with humanitarian sensitivity. And we're falling short in that respect.
אני רוצה, בבקשה, נשיא, דן, עיתון מביא, דימונה, מכיר אותי. אני רוצה לשאול איך הייתה ההתייחסות העירונית לנושא? ההנהגה העירונית, אם יש איזשהו סיוע מראש העיר וכל מי שצריך.
We enjoy a fruitful relationship with the administration at this particular time. We have problems like everyone else in the city, but we have genuine interaction.
And with the thing of Toveet, did someone help you? Like the mayor or someone from the city hall?
I don't know what kind of help they could provide other than writing the letters that they did, because this has been in the hands of the military for the most part. So they did do those things, but right now our issues have been with the military establishment, and that's where we want to send our focus right now.
עוד שאלה?
כן. אלמוג עיתון הארץ, איפה אתם בעצם חושבים שהשופט עצמו בהליך שהוא עשה את אני מבין את הביקורת שיש על החקירה של מצ"ח, אבל בסוף השופט גם בדק את הדברים שלא נבדקו כהלכה במצ"ח. איפה הביקורת על בית המשפט הצבאי?
They didn't check everything. There's a number of things that they didn't check. For example, one of the key elements that we did not find out until this last proceeding was that there was a whole group of new recruits on the base. We didn't find that out until June of this year, that there were 40 additional people on the base in the area the night of the incident, and no one had ever said that before. And when we asked for them all to be questioned, I think only 6 of the 40 were questioned. Why is that? Our attorney noticed that there were the testimony of those 6, 2 of them had encountered Toveet supposedly on the way out of the base that evening. They had 2 different accounts in terms of what happened when they left Toveet. So there's a difference in their story. Why not question them again or give them a polygraph to determine which one is comfortable telling their story? That was denied as well. So the Shofet Choker, the investigative judge, we don't feel he did a very good job. Clearly. All right? All right.
Do you have an idea or a theory what could have been the case here, or are you just simply dissatisfied with the investigation up to this point?
There are a number of places that your imagination can go without the facts, but we know that certain things in terms of the forensic evidence doesn't add up. First of all, they changed the story after the forensic evidence appeared. As we mentioned, the door was missing for 2 years. Immediately when the door was brought to the courtroom in the month of July of this year, am I correct? The month of July. You could see that the angle of the shooting was not as was described in the original investigation. We were told that there was a shooting that, and please, to go back through this, it's not the easiest thing for us. They said that the weapon was held here and the shot was fired thusly, all right? That means an up-down angle. When the door appeared in court that day, you could see immediately that was a right to left shot. And so therefore, the butt of the weapon had to be at the window. So someone could have been standing outside the booth at the window. Someone that she knew. You understand? So a number of other things that can happen. But one of the things that the judge said was that his position was based on the fact that they didn't see evidence of someone else present. But someone could have been standing right there at the window, which is more likely in a booth of that nature. You wouldn't come inside. You would stand at the booth at the window and speak to someone or engage someone. Another significant element in terms of errors that he made regarding the length of the strap on her weapon, because a great deal of focus was put on the fact that for the accident or for the issue to occur as they described, the strap would have had to have been opened to its fullest in order for that to occur. All right, and the judge went to great pains to say that they went and interviewed people on the base and asked them how she wore her weapon, that to demonstrate that the weapon was worn very low or very long, and therefore the strap was fully open, because mysteriously the strap disappeared. All right? Does this look all the way open to you? You see, here's the grab there. It would have been all the way down for this to be all the way open. He doesn't have this picture? I believe he does.
Did Toveet have a background of distress issues or anything like that?
No.
No.
On her Instagram account, there were a couple of very melancholic images.
A great deal of focus was put on that by the military. Some of her friends are here, and some of them actually worked on, some of those pictures were cooperative, the things they worked on together. Others were copies of photos or some interesting things they took out of other magazines. So that was discredited long ago in the process.
אתם עדיין סומכים על הצבא, שתדע לעשות את העניין הזה צודק יותר?
We support this land. We chose to come here. We live here because we want to. We are Israelites. We are Israelis. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But we must have our young people protected when they protect this land. Toveet's sister remains in school here. Her brothers are out of the country right now. So a great deal of mixed feelings on that wise in terms of what steps next. All things are pretty much there. You know, some days it's maybe something else. So it's a difficult time nevertheless. And to continue to have to relive it under these kinds of circumstances without clear answers, when the opportunities for clear answers are there, that only adds to the discomfort.
Different days. Don't mind. Uriel, local regional radio, Badi. How do you support me? You mentioned it earlier. We are not like for other nations in the Israeli state. But the thing is, if I'm not mistaken, in 2003, if I'm not mistaken, the community started joining the army 100% saving. And now And now you're sitting here and saying, okay, we would like to verify, we would like to revise this decision that we've taken a few years ago, but this decision was partly, I don't know if partly, but it was a catalizator, actually, yeah, to go and to get our proper ideas as an official citizen. So this is a bit of a dilemma, this is a bit of a conflict, if I'm not mistaken.
What we're saying, again, it's not a conflict. We're saying that our soldiers deserve to be protected. We're saying that obviously something was wrong here, that either the mechanization was not in place to ensure her safety, or they need to be put in place. Our desire to serve has never been questioned. We have served this land, we will continue to serve this land, but we want to do so under the safest conditions. If those conditions are not there, then we need to take some steps to make sure they are there. This land deserves protecting. We're part of this land. We want the privileges and the responsibilities like any other citizens of this land. But I think that the things that we're asking for is something that's not just for us, but for every family in this country.
Which leads me to another question. How do you have any contact with other misfortunate occasions that have not been investigated properly in the Israeli army? If you lost them,
In fact, I was speaking with Khadijah about such a case just yesterday. She had there was a program at Yad Lebanim here in the city for individuals who had been through some very traumatic experiences. And there was one family in Dimona who shared with her the tragic experiences they had in such an instance. And they ended up having to exhume the body and put the body in the home for an extended period of time.
Either family.
I don't know the family name, but obviously you do. So yes, there has been contact with others on that watch. And of course, we are looking for those other families, organizations who feel and understand what we're going through to join with us to be a force for change, for positive change in this particular area. It's clearly needed.
Everyone.
For everyone. So
Would the community get a feeling, the family get a feeling of closure if you were satisfied with the investigation, even if the findings of the renewed investigation would reaffirm the initial military findings? Would that enable a process of healing to commence?
it's hard to see. First of all, the answer is yes, if everything made sense, but it's hard to see how something's going to make sense at this point. After so much evidence has gone missing, things have gone changed, it's just hard to see that right now. And that's one of the things eating at us and causes us to wonder, what family should have to go through this? So that would be great to have all the questions being answered in such a way that it made logical sense, but that's very hard to foresee right now. We want to thank you all for coming. Again, if there's some additional questions later on, you can please feel free to contact us. They have your number or your Yakim's. In any event, we're here to provide answers because our objective, of course, is to find the truth and fix the problem. All right? That's what our Thank you.